Are we going back to the hotel?
What?
Yeah, our street.
Don't do that.
Okay, you can stop. Come on. You gotta check out your Illinois dove for the TV.
Come on. Channel 7's Power Rangers.
Like that, huh?
I got call my buddy's toe.
You got a nice view of the big old Ferris wheel. Alright, let's go.
What'd you go off and do?
Hello?
It's gonna be fun. Because everybody else has big rooms. Big.
Two beds.
No, we have one bed. This is
This is what you have?
we have a little bit bigger bed.
Wow. You get worse off in here, so.
Things we know.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Hey, Dad, look, that's Buckingham. Say hey, Buckingham Gate. There's a park over there. Did you see? Hey, Bethany, you want to take my picture? Oh, he wiped his nose.
I saw that. Get that on tape, though?
I think so.
In Mayfair, and they have all sorts of
embassy.
additions on the buildings. Queen of England, this little girl, but her uncle decided he didn't want to be king because he fell in love with an American
Sorry
lady,
about that.
Wallis Simpson. She note is a pub, but you're not allowed in pubs, are you? Left and right, and there's Bond Street down here. You all know who Buffalo Bill is, don't you? And then we come to Piccadilly Circus. Have you been to Piccadilly Circus last night? Hollywood and Leicester Square, where there's a fun fair down there. Have you got up to Leicester Square to the fun fair?
Yep.
And the half price they were. So this great hero, Nelson, is very on the left in the National Gallery. Over to the right, Trafalgar Square, the fountains, the Christmas tree from Norway. Sent every year. Looking there, quickly look to the left and spot another president of America. On the left, Washington. And they never have a table 13. They sit a black cat on the table. Look to the right, the famous Savoy. Look up to the left because you'll see city, the square mile of London, and gradually developed into public churches. This is the Oranges and Lemons Church. When will you pay me, said the bells of Old Bailey. That sounds like the bells. Over to the left is the Royal Courts of Justice, where Diana and Charles received their divorce. It's a civil court. Sells all types of tea. And we're just going into Temple Bar. Now get ready to look at the of London, who runs the city. Now the City of London had all the houses would have looked like in the Great Fire of London. Help him write this little dictionary. On the left, Dr. Johnson's, the Cheshire cheese. It's another sign to Dr. Johnson's house. Now it's a church built by Sir Christopher Wren, because after the Great Fire of London, Sir Christopher Wren had to build up what I can see. And they're all going to be rebuilt in the same style. when he died, married Henry VIII. And that's where all the trouble started, because he fell in love with Anne Boleyn and he gave their lives to save Britain from the tyranny of Hitler. So it's devoted entirely to you. And this here is Paul's Cross. And St Paul, our paper of the day. They would give out all the news. Paul's Cross stood here in the 1560s.
If we stand on it.
Right, this is a memorial for the Second World War, 1939 to 45, the people of Britain. But over here, can anybody recognise this statue?
You know what? I brought my it's up to us. Hey, look.
He lived round the corner, so he's the local boy who made acres.
And there are 100 of those organisations, and they all have a hall within this square mile where they drink and they eat and they feast and they enjoy themselves. But their original purpose was to supply a good funeral if you die. And then he does the next hour, they hand him what he's doing. He doesn't have to think. And it's a whirlwind for a year. And he has special robes, and he's head of the government building. And it was the original money exchange where the traders met from the 1600s. Over to the left is the right, because you will see lots of banks. And do you think these funny little right jumping off the top of the monument that have died in the Great Fire of London? Tower Bridge. Look over to the left, the famous Tower Bridge. There it is. Now we're not allowed to stop here because it's a red line, and you can't stop on red lines theoretically. Can we? Look to the left. Now that lifts up to let the ships come through, and in the 1950s they lifted up and a red bus started to cross, and it had to get ready and rev up and do an Evel Knievel and jump the space. And he jumped over a space with all the passengers on board. The ship in front of it is a ship, and you can go on and fire the guns. Now if you want to know where the Roman bridge was, it was just about 80 yards across there where that slanting roof is, and it was probably built on little boats. And all this peril. Now it's good history, but it's bloodthirsty. So if you like to see rats gnawing at prisoners' feet and tower, but we've got a new building going up in front of it, ruining. It's the home of the new mayor of Thomas Becket and Thomas More were imprisoned in the 6 feet high. And the reason why we haven't got tall buildings in London is because we sit on a bed of water. The River Thames is the reason London is here, and it has 30 feet between high and low tide. So if you look down you can see the beach, and later on you'll see the waters 30 feet higher, and it's a very, very dangerous river. Down there to the right it reaches the ocean, to the right 30 out a different way. Over to the left you can see it has many towers. The Tower of London has at least 22 towers, and it's guarded by the yeoman warders, the beefeaters, who wear a 16th century uniform. And if you want your photograph taken with them, you have to say, "Please sir, may I have your photograph?" Look over to the right. It's where they used to cut off people's heads in public in the 1700s, up to the 1700s. It's now a memorial garden to the Merchant Navy. But as we walk down here, we'll probably see a picture hoarding when we park.
Okay, will you guys take ours? Yes. And I think okay, is your monster? Yours is other one, right? Okay, I'll take this one.
There you go.
I have two tied up. Yes.
マイクで。はい。
And the story is that they were lovers. And they've actually found some letters, very endearing letters about from Queen Victoria to him. So they might have been, but we don't know. And they threw rotten eggs at her. So nothing changes. Over to the left, you can see the BA London Eye. Have you seen it before?
Yes.
The wheel that dominates London. It's 450 feet high. It's over to the left. And it has 32 little cars. And you take Westminster. Well, if you study law, then I think you're on the right profession. They make all the money, don't they, if they're successful? Now, Sheridan Palace, it's called Somerset House, and up there, beyond this building, is an ice skating rink. If you want to go ice skating, you can hire the boots, and it's our latest place to be open, the latest fashion place to go. Petra's Palace in Alexandria in Egypt, and it was sunk twice or 3 times on the way over. This is till midnight. Over to the left-hand side, you've got a lovely view of the BA London Eye, and the building behind has an aquarium where you can put your hand in and play with the fish. It has sharks and whales. And went there, and he said all the people assistants are dressed up in funny Salvador Dali clothes. Over to the left, can you see? County Hall it's called. County Hall. An aquarium and a Salvador Dali exhibition. Off in this building on the side, the banqueting house. In 1649, the only king we've been beheaded because he interfered with our parliament. But what you are wanting to see now, as we turn to the left, you've got Her Majesty the Queen's lifeguards, the household cavalry. Look to the right, there. Can you see them? The mounted guards. They're the Queen's personal bodyguard, and that's Horse Guards Parade, where the Queen has her birthday celebration. Now we're going to see number 10 Downing Street, which is coming up on the right, the big gates. Tony Blair and Cherie have 4 children, a new baby called Leo. So there's not enough room in number 10, and they've moved into number 11. They've taken over the whole number 10 and 11. Look up to the right, and it's just down to the left. Look up to the right, halfway down to the left where the cars are. Number 10 Downing Street, Tony Blair, our Prime Minister, and Cherie Blair. Look to the right, to the glorious dead, the empty tomb.